and welcome to the talkSPORT YouTube channel. My name is Harry Durham. Let's go through some of the biggest footballing stories of the day. I'm pleased to say that with me in the studio is talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Crookie, how are you? There's so much to get through. Mate, Wolves, the vacancy, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, my beloved Fulham, obviously, Vitor Pereira, losing 3-0. He's out of the door. Gary O'Neill, no return to the club. This morning, rumours that former Manchester United boss Erik Ten Hag might be arriving at Molineux. What's the latest on that?
Well, they were rumours that actually started circulating yesterday afternoon. I think intermediaries have offered Wolves the chance to have a conversation with Erik Ten Hag. I'm still not convinced actually this is a job that he would be desperate for when you look at his pedigree with Manchester United, with Ajax, with Bayer Leverkusen. I think he sees himself as an elite European level manager. Maybe Manchester United fans weren't feeling that at the end of his tenure, but I think that would be a difficult deal to convince him to take because Wolves in a perilous position at the bottom of the Premier League, 8 points adrift of safety, no wins in the first 10 games. And unlike last season, when Pereira was able to come in and save them, the three teams that have come up from the Championship, as you'll testify as a Fulham fan, are much more competitive. So it looks to me like whoever comes in, yes, if you can try and make them more competitive this season, that would be great. But really, I think the appointment has to be made with a view on the Championship next season and getting promotion at the first time of asking. The first person they called, I'm told, on Sunday morning when we found out Pereira had gone, was Gary O'Neill. That went down like a lead balloon with the Wolves fans. There was an open letter written by the Wolves Supporters Trust to the owners, not necessarily specifically about the prospect of O'Neill returning, but more about how Fosun have run the football club, selling their prized assets, not really replacing them, and particularly about Jeff Shee, the chairman, who is a very unpopular figure. My understanding is that Gary had pretty much agreed personal terms. It was all done and dusted, and then he had a change of heart late on Monday evening, so very much back to the drawing board for Wolves. Was it to do with the length of contract on offer? Was it partly because of that backlash from fans? Maybe a combination of the two. Either way, as it stands now, Gary O'Neill will not be going back to Molineux for a second stint. The other name I was given very early on Sunday was that of Rob Edwards at Middlesbrough, a former academy boss at Wolves, a former player at Wolves, someone who's got big ties in the area, big family connections as well, and someone I'm told that a lot of ex-Wolves players are actually advocating to Jeff Shee that he should be the man they turn to. The big question is,
It's the contract at Borough. What does that mean? Because obviously they're second in the Championship as well. But it's a weird one, right? Because obviously we're, not even like 15 games into the Championship, you're second. The Championship's so weird that, by the end of the season, this could happen. This could work.
They could finish 11th.
So weird. Yeah, they could finish 11th. They could even finish in 20th. You don't even know of the Championship. You can't predict it. But if you're in Rob Edwards' position, I know obviously he's got so many links to Wolves, but do you really want to go to a struggling Wolves side who has no chemistry in the sense of players? January's hard to get new players in, and Borough, if it works out as well. I know you want to be managing in the Premier League, but do you want to give yourself that risk? Because Borough's a huge club anyway.
It is, but it is a club that have been out of the Premier League for a long time, and they have a history actually of starting seasons well, and then, as you've alluded to, falling away. Hayden Hackney is far and away their best player. There was a lot of Premier League interest in him in January. He ended up staying at one point. I think he was actually training away from the first team because it looked like he was going to go. There will be suitors in January. If they lose him, then I think Rob Edwards would face a tall order, certainly for automatic promotion, maybe even to get them up via the playoffs. And as I say, when you've got such a strong link to a particular football club, I guess there's a fairy tale idea in his head that maybe he can come in and be the saviour.
Yeah.
And I would argue also that this Wolves team, despite the fact they've sold most of their stars, is still better than the Luton team that Rob Edwards made a good fist of trying to keep in the Premier League.
So can we categorically say that Erik Ten Hag to Wolves is a no?
I think it's highly unlikely. Listen, it's a headline-grabbing name. I don't see it.
No?
No.
It would be absolutely wild. Imagine Erik Ten Hag if they did get relegated, him managing the Championship. I just a fall really as well, because it didn't work out at Leverkusen, which was a crazy situation as well. Right, the future of William Saliba is a really interesting one. There was a lot of sort of stories going about yesterday, and it's been sort of like brought up again by the press today. Speaking to French TV company Telefoot, the Arsenal defender said it was tempting when a club like Real Madrid is interested in you, but the 24-year-old came back with this. My desire was to stay at Arsenal. First, win trophies before thinking about anything else. Saliba did sign a new deal at Arsenal in September. Crookie, it's hard to ignore a club like Real Madrid, arguably the biggest club in world football. But he said there about wanting to win trophies at Arsenal. If he doesn't win something sort of significant or substantial, I mean, winning the Carabao Cup isn't going to keep him at the Emirates. Do you think he could be off in the summer?
I think he feels that Arsenal are on the verge of something very impressive. I think it was a huge statement for them, tying him down with those links to Real Madrid, and I understand the interest at the time was genuine. I guess it shows the pull of the Premier League in some ways, because not many players turned down the opportunity to play in that resplendent white jersey of arguably the biggest club in the world, certainly in Europe and definitely in Spain. And it also shows that he believes that Mikel Arteta and Arsenal are building something positive. They've only conceded 3 goals over the course of the season. They are statistical favourites, if you believe our friends at Opta, for not just the Premier League but the Champions League as well. And if he is standing with one or maybe both of those trophies in his hands at the end of the season, he will feel the decision has been vindicated.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, I was doing a bit of research into sort of like the average age at Real Madrid. Because you think about sort of Jude Bellingham, you think about Vinicius, you think about players like Camavinga as well, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
But they've got the old guard as well, haven't they?
They have got some old players at the same time, but for the majority of the season, I don't think there's really been a peak above an average age of 26.
Right.
So you think about William Saliba, who's still in his early 20s.
The chance will come again.
Yeah, the chance will come again, but at the same time, do you think we're seeing sort of like more players? You think of like a Dean Howson and players like that making that move early? Dean Howson could have gone to a Premier League team easily from Bournemouth, but rather than waiting until 27 or 28, you could see these players like William Saliba going in the next couple of years.
Potentially, because I think you're right. They have tried to bring down the average age. They've got people like Danny Carvajal there still to sprinkle that experience. The Howson one was a really interesting one, because to go from Bournemouth one season there to Real Madrid is an incredible rise for him, and they didn't pay a huge amount of money to sign in Bournemouth in the first place. But I think Real Madrid have been actively looking at players in the Premier League, and obviously Trent has gone over there. You mentioned that Jude Bellingham, not from the Premier League, but via Dortmund, obviously made his name in the EFL. Ibrahim Konate is an interesting one, although there do seem to be positive noises that maybe he is going to commit his future to Liverpool. So certainly Real Madrid see the Premier League now as a very fertile hunting ground.
Are we, just before we finish up, just a couple more bits and pieces, are we on the verge of seeing the return of Mike Ashley in football? We know that Sheffield Wednesday have been going through it, obviously going into administration. It was spoken about last week, and it's come back to life a little bit at the start of this week. Mike Ashley could be one of the suitors that's going to go in at Sheffield Wednesday. What's that all about?
Well, he's a businessman, isn't he? And I think he will see this as an opportunity. You listen to our own Simon Jordan, who's been quite close to the Sheffield Wednesday situation. He said, well, it's obviously a perilous position at the moment. It wouldn't take a huge amount to turn them around. They've got a massive fan base. They're one of the grand old clubs in English football. Yes, the stadium and the training ground probably need a bit of work, and obviously the squad does as well. But if you can pick them up for a relatively modest fee, then Mike Ashley might just see that as an opportunity to get Sheffield Wednesday going again, maybe turn them into a Premier League entity, and then obviously you get an opportunity to make profit on what you invested in the first place. So I certainly wouldn't rule Mike Ashley out. I know he has been keen to come back into English football, to buy another club since leaving Newcastle. We all know how it finished there. So he's always one who's keeping an eye on situations, and I think Sheffield Wednesday is a good club for somebody.
It's tough as well, because you can't really be sceptical about an owner when you're in sort of like the financial issues that they're in as well. And I mean, we know how it ended at Newcastle. And
he did make them a stable club, though, didn't he?
You know, financially
viable.
But people obviously would say about the ambition of Newcastle being the size that they are now and have always been. Newcastle was a massive football club, but I guess in that sort of situation, if you can save Sheffield Wednesday, then he could be marked as sort of like a bit of a hero.
Yeah,
and
I think they'd be sceptical because, as you say, he was deeply unpopular with Newcastle fans by the end. But anyone's a step up from Chansiri. There's no doubt about that.
Should we talk about that guy? You know what I say when I'm on about that guy?
Go on.
That guy Welbs.
No, there we go. I should.
That's the age.
The penny should have dropped there.
Yeah.
The penny should have dropped there. My 11 and 13-year-old sons would have known exactly what you were talking about.
When I was 15, Crookie, I mean,
Yeah.
hard to believe that I was 15, 14 years ago. Everyone was talking about that guy Wells. Danny Welbeck's been sensational for Brighton so far this season, 6 goals already. I mean, he had that good sort of little start at the beginning of last season as well. It was like telling him it's a bit of a fine wine. A lot of calls over his potential involvement in the England squad. I mean, what have you heard through the grapevine? Is it potential? What is he, 35, 34 at the moment?
34 now, Danny Welbeck, but as you say, he's aged like a fine wine, the Peter Pan of football in some ways. He scored in each of his last 3 games. He's been a vital component for Brighton, certainly since the start of last season, and I'd argue back before that. And my information is, and I've written about this in my notebook on the talkSPORT website, available every Tuesday, that Thomas Tuchel is actively considering recalling Danny Welbeck for these upcoming World Cup qualifiers, which from an England perspective are academic, because of course they've already qualified for North America next summer. So why not give him an opportunity? Ollie Watkins is not in great form. Is it 1 goal in 15 games this season? He obviously doesn't rate Ivan Toney, so that ship seems to have sailed all the way off to Saudi Arabia. So who's next in line? Danny Welbeck. And listen, the reason he's so valuable for Brighton is not just what he does on the pitch, it's what he does off the pitch as well, because they've got a lot of young players from all corners of the globe, but people like Danny Welbeck and James Milner and Lewis Dunk as well, the captain, they're the sort of glue that knit that squad together. And I think it's the same at England. You look at the faith that Thomas Tuchel has shown in Jordan Henderson, and we all raised eyebrows when he was recalled. I think that's as much down to what he does in the dressing room as what he can offer you on the pitch. And Danny Welbeck certainly fits into that category. He's played at Euros. He's been involved in a couple of World Cups. His goal record for England at one stage was phenomenal.
Sublime, yeah.
So what's not to love? And how can you keep ignoring him? I think he'll be in there.
He doesn't look like he's lost a yard
He's
of
in
pace
great
as
nick.
well.
He is in
like,
great
He's
nick.
just been consistent in his fitness and his body at the same time as well. You know, we look at players that go 34, 35, and then we're like, oh, has Mohamed Salah lost a yard of pace and whatnot? I know strikers can get away with being lazy, but he still works the channels really well, I think, Danny Welbeck at the same time. Over to another striker, you have a little bit on Nicholas Fulkrug as well. What's going on with his situation? Has he got much of a future left in East London?
This is the opposite end of the spectrum, isn't it? As good a signing as Danny Welbeck has been for Brighton, Fulkrug has been an absolute disaster for West Ham. 13 Premier League starts since that £27.5 million move from Dortmund on the back of doing well for Germany at the last European Championships.
He was a bit of a legend in the Euros in Germany, wasn't he?
He was.
I mean, he's a mad-looking bloke, God bless him, because he's got the tooth missing.
Yeah.
And we thought, do you know what? It's traditional.
Bit of a
number
throwback.
9. Yeah, bit of a throwback number 9. And a lot of people, being a neutral, both of us, quite excited to see him in the Premier League. It's
none of us doubted it at the time, although if you take a deeper dive, he is a player who's suffered with injuries over the course of his career. His own agent has come out this week and admitted it's been a move that has failed and they're looking to move him on. And I'm told that West Ham won't stand in his way in January, particularly if they get a chance to claw back even a smidgen of that fee, because obviously Nuno Espirito Santo needs reinforcements. We spoke about this a week or so ago. He wants up to 3 new players, maybe more. And Fulkrug, I think, is just not someone who's going to fit into his plans.
Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is Alex Crook. My name is Harry Durham. Please remember, if you're new here, to subscribe just down below. I think we're closed in on 2 million subscribers on the talkSPORT YouTube channel. See you later.